Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And welcome into a Monday edition of Judd's Hockey Show. Plenty to talk about over the weekend. Fortunately, AJ and I did do a Judd's Hockey Show after the Calgary game. Why is that fortunate? Because now we don't have to talk about it as much because it was such a bad performance. But plenty to discuss about the Wild's potential playoff spot, if it's clinched or not yet, which of course it's not, all of that good stuff. But before we do, AJ, I want to talk to you about my good friends at Podregs Brewing. Absolutely outstanding. I've talked about them for a long time now. I guess the red is selling like hotcakes, which it should be. It's fantastic. But there's a special opportunity now too from our friends at Podregs and also us here, and that is to win a Sports Dad front row tickets at our Purple Daily Draft Party coming up April 24th at the Fillmore. All you have to do, stop by Podregs Tap Room, sign up to win between now and April 20th. And again, front row tickets at our PD Draft Party, which is going to be a great time, always is, April 24th at the Fillmore. Podregs located in the old Land of Nod Factory at the center of Broadway, or at the corner, I should say, of Broadway and Central Avenues Northeast. Absolutely a great chance to try some fantastic beer, including, may I suggest, the Patty's Premium, which is an outstanding pontoon summer beer. Patty's Premium, give that a shot as well while you're there signing up to win those exciting Sports Dad tickets. All right, let's get to it, Age. The Wild rebound from a pathetic performance against Calgary to play a pretty hard game against the Canucks. They win 3-2, but they fall behind 2-0 before they rally to win, get two just enormous points. The Wild could have clinched a playoff spot if Calgary had lost in regulation to the San Jose Sharks last night. Calgary did not. Calgary won. So as of now, it's still pretty doggone bunched up there at the end of the playoff race in the Western Conference. The Wild has a point on the Blues. The Blues have 2 points on the Flames. The Flames have one extra game left because they play that makeup game from the Wildfires in Los Angeles on Thursday against the Kings. The Wild and the Blues each have one game left at this point. What were your thoughts watching the game against the Canucks? Because I thought that they played far superior than they did on Friday night, but that's saying nothing. I mean, the game on Friday night was an absolute disgusting performance. I thought the Islanders game was bad. That looked like I thought a fantastic game compared to what they did against Calgary. But there were some definite bright spots, including, well, he played a ton. He played Brock Faber in this game, 33 minutes, 28 seconds. Second most time to a game that Zach Werenski played for Columbus this season. But Brock scored a goal early in the third period, 22 seconds in. I thought in the third he was absolutely fantastic. But how did you reconcile that performance after what we saw against the Flames?
Well, the thing is, like, they played a little bit of hockey. That was the difference. On Friday night, they played zero. They had zero intention of like going out there and trying to win the game. On Saturday night, for the first two periods, they played very much a similar game in my mind. It was very not a lot of chances. They looked like they didn't want to make a mistake and get in a hole early. But the problem was they did. Goal early in the first period, goal midway through the second for the Canucks. You find yourself down 2-0. They generated 1.2 expected goals through the first two periods, ended with 4.68 expected goals. Like, they really poured it on in the third. The third was some of the best hockey that we've seen from a long time from this team, and the best hockey by far we've seen this past weekend. Like, it was really the only hockey that I saw them go out and attempt to play. They were like impactful on the forecheck. Passes were crisp. They were creative. They were like lethal getting to the front of the net. The power play had actually a little zip on it at times. The penalty kill when they went down. Actually, no, they didn't even go down on the third to the penalty kill in the third period. And then the overtime, they lose the draw, but then they, because of hard stick checks, win the puck back, and then they made no doubt. it was, I mean, it raised my like hope level a little bit, if that makes sense. Like they looked like an actual hockey team, but the problem was it took them for what you could have locked this up on Friday night, but it took you 5 periods to realize, okay, now we know how to play this like level of hockey. Now we know how important this is. So that's the concerning part. It's crazy that after all of this, they still have a chance at the wild card one, but based on, I think Ehlers might have gotten hurt by a collision with the referee the other night. So who knows if that's even what you want now? Like, who knows how long he's going to be out?
Yeah.
The Jets are still a very, very good team, but it's very interesting that they are able to actually be having this conversation of not just, okay, they're in, but also they have a chance of having better wild card positioning, which is interesting. So.
Yeah, I thought so. The Calgary game was awful. Like it was just, it was inexplicable. I mean, inexcusable for what, game 80, no show. The first 2 periods of the Canucks game, I'm inclined to agree with your assessment. It looked like they didn't want to make a mistake. They definitely played way harder. Like the first 2 periods were not comparable to what occurred in Calgary the night before. But then in the third, and this is the Faber I want back. Like he does a lot of things. Okay. I'm not saying he doesn't. He does a lot of things. Since the 4 Nations face-off, he's not looked like the same guy, and he could be dealing like they won't tell you if he's going to continue to play. He could be hurt. So giving him that benefit of the doubt, what we saw in the third period, though, that's what you need from him for every playoff game. Like that's what you need. And you're right. Like, where was that third period? Where's that third period been for 2 weeks now?
Yeah.
Because we're not in the middle of January. It's not like the dog days of the season when you're tired and a team just goes into a rut or a slump. They were a team they have been a team that they can't get their act together. And we always talk about, it's funny, the fallback is, well, injuries. First it was Caprizov's out and Eriksson X out. And yeah, those guys are 100% missed. But now it's, well, the defense now. I mean, look at how are they supposed to play with these defensemen? Jake is out and Chisholm got hurt. He came back on Saturday night and, Spurgeon went out in that game and then he didn't play on Saturday. How are they supposed to play? And then sure enough, when they decide to, they can. But you know what? The playoff thing, I don't think it matters. And here's why. And Ryan Carter's done a very good job. He doesn't hammer this home, but on the telecast, he's done a very good job. Whenever LaPanta is trying to find an out for, well, this or that, or how can they just get this back? Ryan Carter basically is saying they are their own worst enemy. It's the same as the Wolves. It doesn't matter who they play in the first round. If they play like they have the past 2 weeks, the majority of the time, they're going to lose in 5 games. If they play like they did in the third period against the Canucks, guess what? They're going to win some games.
Yeah.
But you can play the Jets. You can play the Golden Knights. You can play the 84 Oilers. You can play the 76 Canadians. You can play the 55 Habs. But if you play like they've been playing, you ain't going to win. And if you play like they played in the third, and I guess my question, and I'm sure it drives John Hines up the bleeping wall, is where has that been? Because they were down Spurgeon, Middleton, on Saturday. They were down some very key players. But then when they flipped a switch, it came back. And I know that Brodin and Faber played a ton. But nonetheless, a lot of guys in that third, I thought, played well. So to me, the playoff thing has nothing to do with the opponent. It has everything to do with how do you want to play? And like you've been saying in sort of mocking fashion, because they deserve it, is how do you want to choose your heart?
And it's nice to know, because we saw it in the first game back with Kirill and Eck coming back, that they could score goals, but it was against a bad team. They let up 7 in that game against the Sharks. It was nice to see that, like, with those guys in the lineup, when they play the style of hockey that I think they probably want to internally in the locker room, but for some reason just like hesitated to get to a point where now let's work up the courage and the effort to go out there and play this way. They can beat a team like the Canucks in one period 3-0 in a sense. Like, you can win that period 3-0. the Canucks are not going to make the playoffs here now.
Right.
But they're much better than the Sharks are. So that's encouraging to me, because if you, this is exactly what you just said about Ryan Carter's point, which is they really need to decide, do they want to beat themselves or not? They can win games if they go out and play that style of hockey in the postseason, no matter it's against the Avalanche, the Jets, the Golden Knights, the Oilers, or the Kings, or whoever comes out of that first round match, because they're playing each other again for the fourth time in a row. They can win games. It really is, do they want to show up? I would like to think that when the calendar flips and it says, hey, you're now in the postseason, it's the playoffs, that all of these struggles the past couple of weeks where it's like, oh, which version of the Wild are we getting here tonight, probably magically fades away. I'm not entirely sure. I would like to think the optimist in me says, okay, they're going to all show up because it's the playoffs. Sure. It's one last shot for a Marc-Andre Fleury to make some sort of,
and it's going to be harder though.
But
that's the thing. Are they going to get, like, I have a feeling, I'm so disappointed to say this, because I thought we were past this crap, right? The Parisi Suter teams. I thought we were past this, but
I don't, the injuries, Judd.
Well, but what I don't understand, what's leaving me at such a loss, is they on some nights are electing not to show up. Like, how did we get back here? How did we get back here? No one in, aside from Kirill and a couple of guys, maybe, no one in that locker room is good enough to say, I am not going to give everything I've got in this game. We got a chance for a playoff spot. I don't understand how we're back here again. It's not the same guys, but yet somehow this team has slid back into the old, because the Calgary game was not, they tried, they just lost.
Yeah.
And the Vancouver game, the problem there, Age, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think the Vancouver game, what bothered me was it took them a period or two to get their mojo back, because they had sleptwalked through the previous game. And then in the third, it's like, okay, it's back. And again, I know some guys played a lot, but the fact is they played a really good third period. But it takes time. If you are going to no-show a game, it was very clear early on Saturday. I'm inclined to think that you're right. They were almost afraid to make a mistake then, because they had made frequently made mistakes, I should say, against the Flames. So how are we back here again? How are we doing this? I know it's maddening, but
is it a leadership thing? Because like you said, you sleptwalk through 5 periods and then decided, okay, now let's play a game. And we were able to scrape out this one in overtime. If you do that in the playoffs in the first round, Vegas steamrolls you for like a 6-0 win in game 1. You're still in Vegas for game 2 2 days later. And guess what? You're down 4-0 heading into the third. They're too defensively sound of a team to let up 4 goals to force overtime so you can try to magically pot a 5th. Like that, it doesn't work there. And that's where this team just has to decide to play a full game. The fact that do you know what yes, but do you know what it sounds like I'm asking for the world here, but I'm asking for the bare minimum. Just play. It's April. It's April. Like, this is game 82 coming up for you on Tuesday against the Ducks. If it's not wrapped up, you should go out there and acting like this is game 7 of the Stanley Cup final. Like, you should punish the Ducks, make Trevor Zegras' life hell. They continuously just don't show up for full games. And it's so weird because, in past years, we've seen okay, you got to get the boys going with a predetermined fight ahead of the game. Why? I'm not anti-fighting, but I am anti that type of fighting, because if you, as a professional hockey player, can't jolt up and be ready for puck drop for an NHL game, what are we doing?
And here's the problem too. On the way that they played on Friday in Calgary, they basically crapped on Marc-Andre Fleury. So he had been told, you're going to play against the Canucks. It's your last start. Because the assumption was if they beat the Flames, they clinch a playoff spot. Flower starts on Saturday. And then on Tuesday, you come back with the Gus bus, because there's going to be a break now, like an 8-day break, right?
Yep.
So, okay, that's great. So I read in a story that Flower had family, not a bunch, but had some family flying in to watch the game, his last start. They all know this. And you need to go out and get 2 points to make sure that this guy, who is hockey royalty, as I've said since the day he got here, one of the most beloved figures, I would argue, probably in the history of the league. I mean, just absolutely beloved.
Mhm.
And you basically crap on it to the point where Hines gets so mad, and he's not wrong. And the Calgary game is so far gone by the time it's 4 rip that
Mhm.
he has to lift Gus, put in Flurry, and tell Gus, you're going to start because we have to have the game on Saturday. Like, imagine that. Imagine that complete lack of respect, because that's what that was. That
Yeah.
game was a lack of respect for John Hines. It was a lack of respect for the Flower. It was a lack of respect for the entire sport of hockey. Like, imagine that.
I respect John Hines for doing it because, like, we
I
talked about it.
agree.
We talked about it the other day, where it's like, this is a business, and like sometimes you kind of get the too emotional stuff, and you don't want to promise that sort of thing when you're trying to make the playoffs. Like 99% of those guys are still, like Marc-Andre Fleury. He should get a send off in a better way than what now we're seeing. But also,
Yes, he should.
at the end of the day, it's like, well, this team needs to make the playoffs. You got to make the right decision. But yeah, it's just, it feels disrespectful. Like, I know they
disrespectful.
I know those guys are probably beating themselves up about it, but you know what you could have done better is just perform against Calgary. Because when they cut to Flower coming like out of the tunnel, he like went to grab, his stick
Yes.
or whatever.
Yep.
Maybe it was just like I was in a bad mood because I was in a really bad mood on Friday night, but I maybe just got a sense of, on his facial expression, like you've got to be kidding.
Oh, I think you're right. Yes.
Because I'm sure that was kind of running through his head where it's like, well, I'm not starting tomorrow now. What the hell? Like, I do feel bad. And I would like to think that, like, okay, you could probably start him on Tuesday against Anaheim if you really like wanted to give him one last final game and make sure his family, you get them on a PJ down to St. Paul. But it's really almost too important. I know that they have like a 97% chance of making the playoffs, but also especially when you don't have that first round pick anymore, it's so crucial that you don't let it fall into the hands, like the fate of either the Blues or the Flames. Like, they play the Golden Knights, they play the Kings the remaining 2 games. You'd expect that they don't pick up 2 points in both of those games.
Know.
But you don't know.
Yeah, you've got to get the point. And he's got to play Gus the break, because the season officially ends on Thursday. So the Wild ends its season
be like a week,
2 days before. Right. So he's got to play. Now, best case, you take a big lead and you can put the Flower in, but still, the Vancouver game was going to be his last regular season start.
Yeah.
And inexplicably, you crapped on that. You crapped on everything, and then you bounce back and you're sort of proud of yourself, and it's like, you should not be proud. Like, this was despicable. I can't tell you how gross that was. So I felt bad for the Flower, and I agree with you completely. I saw the same look, which was, this is unbelievable. Like, this is, I mean, Gus is screaming, he's all mad. And I don't blame him. Like, I don't blame the goaltenders. Flurry was terrible against the Sharks. The team was defensively terrible, but I don't blame goaltending for much of this at all. This to me is about guys scoring goals. It's to me about effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's, again, I feel like I'm talking about the 2018 team. It never ends. And what's weird is the names change, the management changes, the head coach changes, and yet the approach when it matters most. And right now, it certainly does. You see that. So, couple more topics to get to, but before that, I do want to bring up and talk to you about my friends at Neos Elite Performance. If you're active or trying to get an edge in life, the experts there can help you. Chronic pain slowing you down. Neos Elite's cutting edge regenerative medicine and cellular IV therapy designed to get you going again without invasive procedures. That's the key, folks. That is the absolute key. This is white glove service that's going to be delivered to your home. No trips to the doctor's office. The team at Neos will come to you. So if back, knee pain in general is making everyday tasks feel impossible, stop the suffering now. Neos' therapy is designed to reduce pain, restore function, and get you back to doing what you love. Exactly. So there's no surgery, there's no downtime, There are only results, which is fantastic. Schedule now at neoselite.com. That's NEOS elite.com. And if you are inclined to check this out, the website also has a ton of stuff on what the procedures are all about. I'm telling you right now, it's cutting edge stuff at neoselite.com. All right. Couple more things to get to. First of all, Kirill Kaprizov. The pass in OT to Zuki was fantastic. I mean, if those guys could play, if the National Hockey League went to 3-on-3, my God, would they be special? But they're not going to. So the OT pass was great. But herein lies the question, too. So the Sharks game was fun from a goal scoring standpoint.
Yeah, entertaining.
Yeah, entertaining game. But it was, I guess, what you would call a mirage, because the Sharks are just so bad. Yeah. So what we've seen from Kirill in the Calgary game and in the Canucks game is this is going to take some time. Again, on Saturday, I thought Carter did a very good job of explaining, and he's right. You know, as you said to me in the press box against, I think it was against the Sharks, the mind is still there. Like, his mind is so sharp. Mm-hmm. He's such a smart player. The ability to make plays, he knows exactly what he wants to do, but the physical, and Carter talked about this, you know, the battles on the boards, getting the puck, coming away with the puck, stealing the puck, all of that stuff is going to take time. And the only question is, how much time? Because this goes back to when he came back a couple of years ago for I think the last couple games, and was it the playoff series against Dallas? The same thing. I think he scored a goal in game 1, and he didn't score again. And you can see that happening again here, where it's just going to take time. And I think the question is, how much time before Kirill Kaprizov, before what he's able to do on the ice all of the time, not just certain shifts, resembles the guy that we are used to seeing? Because clearly that is not close to being there right now on a shift by shift basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that during his time away, there was no hockey detox, because it's his mind, his IQ, it's as quick as ever. It was like a shift or two after this, like after coming back for San Jose, that I leaned over and I said, his positioning, he's in the exact right spot. He's like generating chances just because of like the way he's cutting in blind spots to open areas for his teammates. That stuff is all there. And you saw it in the 3-on-3 overtime. He has the map in his head of how are we scoring here?
Yep.
And I have the pass. I know I want to get to Zuccarello, and I'd try it once. Okay, that one didn't go. Let's reset. We're gonna try it again. Okay, he missed that time. That's okay. Let's try it again. Hey, there we go. Third time's the charm. Like, he knows exactly what it's gonna be. But yeah, it's like the nitty gritty stuff, and it's not like he is playing bad. Like, that level of Kirill Kaprizov is still very, very good, but it is just the fine tuned things. It's those. Is there a hesitation that maybe in his subconscious saying, "Hey, we're coming back from a surgery. Maybe we shouldn't go full tilt in the wall here for this puck. It's only the second period. Like, I don't necessarily need to win this puck battle. We'll get the puck back. It's okay." That's not typical Kirill Kaprizov. Like, he wants the puck every single time. He wants to outwork the opposition.
Right.
And the rust factor, hopefully it shakes off. The problem is, I feel like whatever season it was maybe it was last year, where he did more rehabbing than actual off-ice workouts and like on-ice workouts.
It was before last season, right? Because he got off to a slow start.
Yeah,
but he came back before. It was the Dallas series, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember because it was a big Robertson versus him.
He got hurt against the Jets, missed a ton of time, or missed a bunch of time. Yeah. So yes, it was last season.
But it was the off season where he did more. They described it as more of like a baseball injury, because it's not something hockey players like typically get.
Yeah.
So it was a weird rehab thing, but you could tell even at the start of the season, because he wasn't skating as much. It took him a while to get the pivotal hips and like shifting your weight and just being as comfortable there. And it was more noticeable, I think, than what we see now, but it took him a long time because it was just such a weird thing. Yep. Is it different now because it's, once again, lower body? He's kind of come back from the same thing. Hopefully you can shake it off, but it's not overnight. You could break a bone. You could like separate your shoulder or whatever, and like, you might get clearance from the doctor, but also at the same time, it's not going to be 100% probably till a few months later, because everything has to like reshore up, and like you might be cleared for contact, but this is where I don't think you're going to get 100% Kirill Kaprizov the rest of the season. But if you can get 90%,
yeah, how close can you get to? Yeah, exactly.
That's where like what his ceiling actually is here now, health wise. If you can get 90%, I think you're going to be fine, and that's what I would love to see. I think that's enough to probably generate play at a high level, drive this team every single shift. He's a guy that I think is going to play through any sort of pain and unsureness. But if there's anything that flares up, you can't hold that in. Like, you have to tell the medical staff, because for his future, I know playoffs, you want to win every game, but at the same time, the team is in such a weird position with his contract negotiations coming up on July 1st.
And I don't think that he's purposely going easy. I think he just isn't sharp right now.
Yeah.
Like, and the one thing too is, correct me if you think I'm wrong too. And this is the one thing that I can't decide if this is timing or this is the nature of having the injury that he did, which we think was like a groin thing or a hernia thing.
Mm-hmm.
The Kirill skating is not close to being back. Again, he's better than most on his worst day. So, but I'm saying like the guy that can do the, pinpoint, just pivot. And as I've said for a long time, at his best, he can stick handle in a phone booth. Like, he is that. I'm not seeing that guy yet, and I'm not close. And I guess my question is, does that just take time, or is that, to your point, is that something where it's just not going to come back for months still? Because he did have surgery. And again, this is, just to be very clear here, this is not bashing him. This is the reality of his situation. And the reality is, when he's at his best, he is one of the best players in the entire league. But that is a very small list for a reason. And when you've had surgery just, months ago now, I don't think anyone would expect you to come back and be the exact player that you were. Now it's a question of how much time does that take?
Yeah, I would expect you probably don't see that type of skating. And it's an idiot. He still is like moving around the zone, but it's not that powerful, silky,
pinpoint
like
stuff.
Pinpoint. Exactly. I feel like you're not going to see that really again until next season. And the reason I think that is because like you're not doing that motion and that sort of powerful, like lateral changing on a day-to-day basis. That's not everyday life. And if you go from doing that daily, you've worked yourself up to be at that level, and all of a sudden you have to stop for, what was it, 6 to 8 weeks that he was out.
Yep.
Your body maybe realizes, okay, we don't need to do that as much anymore. We're gonna settle back in, and now
you just can't right now.
And now you just can't. So especially in the healing process, you're trying to, pretty much your body's not locking that down, but it's a shock to itself when, okay, now we're trying to do that again. He probably just can't. It's something where you're gonna have to like ease back into that. You're probably gonna have him skating the term is like with a hand behind his back, but in this case, it's maybe a hip tie behind his back, because he just can't do it normally. You're not going to see that type of powerful around the world that we've seen him do before until next season. But what he's still doing now, this hand skill, I think, is very much there, and that's making up for some of that lack of skating.
Absolutely. All right, we're done. Back, of course, tomorrow, JHS with our good friend Jesse Pierce. I think she's going to be at the arena because there's a morning skate, because it's Tuesday and the Wild's going to play the Ducks. So she will have all of the latest, including where's Zeev Buium going to play? Who is he going to be partnered with?
Get your number 8 jerseys ready.
It's going to be Zach Bogosian is my guess, and AJ is going to completely melt down. He's AJ. I'm Judd. We'll talk to you later on Judd's Hockey Show.